Welcome to the Sirens of the Mother podcast, a place where we wax lyrical about all things mother, from the divine to the damn right dirty. And it's my pleasure to have you here as we cut through the noise and distortions of our current narratives. So welcome back to another episode of Sirens of the Mother. And I have with me today the beautiful Emmi Mutale, who is a dear sister, friend. And before we got on the call, I was just saying that she saw me before I saw me, and she heard the mother coming through me clearly before I knew fully what the voice was. And so it feels like a real pivotal moment to invite her as a guest on my podcast. It just feels like, yeah, we're here, we're doing it. And so welcome, Emmi. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Coco. Thank you so much. And what an honor to be part of this podcast and to be chatting with you today. Can't wait to see where our conversation takes us.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited about this one. So let me just introduce Emmi. Emmi is an intuitive healer, a shamanic womb priestess. She holds an exquisite energy and frequency, and especially around healing the wounds of the feminine. She's a teacher, a reawakener, and she has a vision for a global moment where all women are fully earth-centered and womb-centered and come into their full leadership. And I'm really excited to talk about Emmi's work during this conversation and the thread that brought us together, which was the mother world and the energetics of that are coming forward right now. And so why don't we just kick off with, yeah, how we kind of met and came into being and what the mother world actually is so that people can understand the grounding of how we see what's coming forward for this new time, and also that everything else kind of rests upon that.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for that question. For me, the mother world it's both a dimension and a very concrete lived experience.
Mhm.
And the mother world for me symbolizes all that is not really present so fully in the world as it is now.
Mhm.
And we, as humanity, we are living in a very, very pivotal time right now. We
Mhm.
get to choose. We have a big, big choice to make, whether we follow the path of materialism and destruction, this pointless war and conflict and division and polarity, or whether we choose to walk the path of love, compassion, and kindness. And love, compassion, and kindness are really the foundational blocks, the foundational elements of the mother world as well. So the mother world is where all living beings are recognized as being sacred,
Mhm.
where beings that some of us may see and some of us may not see are also acknowledged as living amongst us and interacting with us in many, many different ways. And those beings are also sacred.
Mhm.
And in the mother world, Mother Earth herself is a living, breathing organism on her own ascension path as well. And she will continue to ascend, whether we choose to ascend with her or not. But it really is about returning to that understanding that we are part of her, we are her. She
Mhm.
lives in us, and we live on her and in her.
Mhm.
So it really is this idea of unity, unity consciousness. And it really goes back to the ancient ways of being, where our forefathers and foremothers a long, long time ago used to revere the feminine. They used to
Mhm.
revere women because we, as the beings who carry wombs inside our bodies, are the portals for new life to be birthed into the world. So this was recognized, this was revered. And women were considered leaders. Women were considered oracles. Women were considered, well, women were the first shamans.
Yeah.
And women would be consulted about all kinds of issues related to the communities that they lived in, and well beyond that as well. And our connection to nature, our connection to the cycles of nature and to the celestial cycles was understood in a very different way back then. And once patriarchy came about, because of all the fear of women's power and the fear around women's ability to sense things differently, to have this incredible power, these psychic powers, this ability to create, all of this was seen as a threat at one point. And for thousands of years, we've been living within that patriarchal paradigm.
Mhm.
And now what we're really seeing awakening throughout our planet is this return to that mother consciousness, that love, that compassion and kindness, and that understanding that we are all truly one.
Mhm. It's so beautiful. And I love that you say that whether we're conscious of it or not, we're all evolving. We're all on this journey. You cannot get off it because all the planetary bodies, the Earth and everything, all of the cosmos, all of the universe is shifting now with us all. And so with that, today, this concept of shedding what the feminine is not and stepping into fully what the feminine is. And you speak a lot about feminine leadership because, like you say, women were revered in that time and were considered the leaders because we were so plugged into all the bodies of all the planets of the cosmos because we birth life and life is birthed through us. And so this wasn't a competition thing between masculine and feminine. It was the reverence of understanding that life comes through feminine form first. And so, like you said, with patriarchy, so much was put on top of that. And so, to a point when women actually fear their power and became um, like more associated with the wounding that happened because of that, because of the lack of reverence, which is what I was really feeling today of what was the original heartache and point that brought in the wounding. And it was this sense that just the lack of reverence for life, that real sorrow and grief. And I can feel like in the collective field that we're at this pinnacle point now where we're so ready to shift that and to feel the full like ferocity of that grief and shift beyond that because we were talking a little bit earlier about what's on the other side of that. So I wonder if you can talk about the wounding more because I know that that's really a pivotal thing in the work that you do and you look at them as like, is it five like sacred wounds of the feminine? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I call them the five core feminine wounds. And these wounds are again interlinked and intertwined in many, many ways. And all of us who've been born into female bodies in these lifetimes carry aspects of these wounds. Some of us more deeply, and some of us at a more lighter level. Maybe I can use that term. Really just depends on our unique life and soul experiences. And these five core feminine wounds, they include the mother wound, the sister wound or the sisterhood wound, the body wound, the menstruation wound, and the womb wound itself.
Mhm.
And shall I describe a little bit more
Yeah,
what each?
yeah, yeah, please.
Sure, absolutely. So the mother wound is there's two aspects to this. It's our relationships with our own mothers. And regardless of how beautiful a mother-daughter relationship might have been, there's always little
Hmm.
incidences that can cause trauma and wounding to the daughter, especially. And if your mother was abusive or distant, emotionally unavailable, very authoritarian, for example, controlling, those would all leave marks on us.
Hmm.
And it would be then up to us as the daughters to clear that, to heal that, so that we don't pass it on to our daughters or even our sons. That's one aspect of the mother
Mm-hmm.
wound. The other one is our own motherhood journey, whether we've chosen to be mothers or not. And it really is about perhaps potentially challenging relationships with our own children or difficult pregnancy journeys, horrendous experiences during birth and labor, for example. It could also be about miscarriages or abortions that we might have experienced, all these little nuances that have to do with our own motherhood journeys and how gentle and compassionate can we be with ourselves within that journey, and how can we learn to shift and mold our relationships with our own children, so that we don't again pass on our own wounding and trauma to them. And actually, there is a third aspect as well, and that is our relationship to Mother Earth, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and how crucial and critical this relationship is, especially now,
Yeah.
and we really need to awaken to the understanding that Mother
Mm-hmm.
Earth is a living being, as we talked about earlier, and how we need to live in an understanding that we are of her.
Mm-hmm.
We are living on her and of her, but she's also inside of us,
Yeah.
and we are part of her.
Mm-hmm.
So how different the world would be if all of us saw it from that perspective, from that angle. Um, and you could go into a great deal of depth talking about all these aspects of the mother wound, but that's like
That's,
just a little
yeah, a
nutshell.
little taste. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll move on to the other wounds in a moment, but I really want to like reiterate that sense of we are of the mother. There is no escaping that, no matter what narrative we've been fed or told. We are all of the mother. And now, as we were talking earlier about the mother world that is rising through the soil of this earth, that we can plug into that and be restored by that, because everything that happened above light surface over the last few millennia have severed us from the umbilical cord of the mother. And so we can plug back in energetically and be fed and nourished and come back to our full original blueprint as beings in reverence and, like you said, in co-creation with life and the mother essence, because, well, it's the only way that we're going, so we might as well might as well do it in a conscious way, right? Yeah.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Do you
that
want
whole
to?
idea of the mother consciousness that we are all part of, whether we are aware of that or not,
Yeah.
and how that mother consciousness is available to all of us. We just
Hmm.
need to open up to it and allow it to become a part of us. And it can take a lot of courage because we're so
Yeah.
used to living in a paradigm that is so far removed from that.
Hmm.
All developed all kinds of patterns and behaviors and beliefs, especially beliefs that are kind of ruling the way we've become and the way we behave in this world, the way we act in this world. And it takes a lot of courage to start unraveling that and
Hmm.
open up to the possibility that, wow, I truly can plug into this consciousness. I truly can bring healing
Hmm.
to myself and to those around me and to the collective as well.
Hmm. Yeah, because you are leaving behind everything that you know,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. And if your identity is kind of really pinned on how we were supposed to be in this paradigm, then um it can be confusing for one. And it, like you said, and it takes great courage to step over that threshold into this new way of being. I think when I did it personally, it was like a leap of blind faith because I think I was saying to you earlier that I didn't fully understand the language. I didn't fully understand the energetics from my mind. I had to let go of everything that was in my mind and just allow it to emerge through me, which is a very different way of being in the body and being as woman, trusting that the intel and the energy that's flowing through us is like the new track that we're following, even if we can't see one foot in front of the other. It's like learning to lead through the body, through the being, through intuition, through our internal inner guidance. And like you said, if we're being so entrapped in the other way of being where we're taught to think, feel, and like move forward in that way, it takes courage to let go of all the beliefs and the narratives that we've been fed as women, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's a perfect segue to the next wound, which is the
yeah,
sister wound or the
yeah.
sisterhood wound,
Hmm.
which again is our relationships with other women.
Hmm.
And we are so accustomed to treating each other badly, to pushing each other down rather than lifting each other up. There's so much competition, there's so much criticism, so there's so much judgment and
Hmm.
bullying, backbiting, bitching. All of this is part of this paradigm. And we are both the perpetrators and the victims of that paradigm.
Hmm.
And it's something that's been there for thousands of years under patriarchy. And again, it's a very systematic way of pinning us against each other so that we don't realize how powerful we are when
Hmm.
we come together and how beautiful it is when we come together and co-create, when we come together and heal, when we come together in ceremony or sacred ritual, and when we sing together, when we drum together. The simplest of things, when done together, become incredibly potent and powerful. And the more I work with women, the more I work, especially in groups of women, the more I see the power of women healing this wound
Hmm.
and really stepping into their own power, into a power that doesn't need that competition, doesn't need that judgment, but is able to rejoice in others'
Hmm.
successes, is able to support each other through no matter what is happening, no matter what is going on. And just doesn't care about the victim mode or the need to appear to be better than the other and the need to appear to be more successful than the other, but it's true sisterhood, true support, which is again what used to be there as well in the mother world
Hmm.
when it was the one prevailing thing on our planet. So again, we're returning slowly back to that, and more
Hmm.
women are awakening to the reality that, wow, what we've been doing is so unhealthy, both for women
Hmm.
and for men, because men are impacted by this as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we really truly come together as women who are conscious and awake, dedicated to their own healing and to the healing of our planet and the collective consciousness, there's absolutely nothing that we can't achieve. We are
Hmm.
powerhouses.
Yeah. For me, it's almost moved from the healing to the remembrance that this is the truth of woman. There was no competition between women because we knew we each carried a unique thread. So it was like, it just made no logical sense to have competition because we all came together, we weaved together, and what we created collectively together was a harmonic sound. And so there was no colluding, consoling, like, yeah, or condemning one another. And it's just been a really fascinating journey for me, as I was saying, and like stepping now into this threshold and letting that all go. And like feeling like the just pure joy and bliss of being with women where we each are so solid in our own essence, and we know that when we come together, there is a synergy that happens rather than we having to have any kind of suspicion. And yeah, just letting go of those last like threads of recognition where people have said, "Oh, you can't say that on the book," and it's like, "Yes, I can." And then just really feeling and sending compassion to that because understanding that it's still that stronghold of fear of censorship, censoring the voice of the feminine. And this is why, as soon as I got the green go to to create the podcast and bring these beautiful souls together, it was like, yes, the sound can go out now, and women are ready to fully listen and embrace to the sound of cohesion between women. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we do need to also remember our common history, our joint history, which includes the burning times, which includes um, the abuse of the priestesses, the
Hmm.
abuse there's so many instances in our history where supporting one another could actually have been penalized in a very, very heavy way. So that fear also still kind of lives in our cellular memory and in that collective consciousness, in that fabric of our consciousness. And remembering what was before that, healing the remaining aspects
Hmm.
of that in the matrix, so to speak.
Yeah.
For me, still quite because I can still feel it. I can
Mhm.
still see it in certain instances. Um, I think you and I and the listeners to this podcast will be in a way in a privileged position in the sense that we are more conscious of the dynamics of what's happened in the past, what's going on at the moment as well. But there is still a huge number of women and men who haven't yet quite understood those dynamics and who continue to live in a world of division and judgment and
Mhm.
polarization. So that's a big part of my work as well, to really spread that message and to open these doors to more and more women and to more and more
Mhm.
men that we
Yeah.
don't need to be in competition. We don't need to have that judgment going on
Mhm.
going on at all times, and it's no longer as dangerous as it used to be for us to raise our voices and for us to
Mhm.
sing in unison and for us to co-create together.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why I speak the truth of that with such clarity, because to me, it's like a clarion call to the women and the men to say that those patterns and beliefs were things that we lived through in our history and our past, but we no longer have to carry those. It's time for the shift, and coming into the fold of people that have moved through that is such a healing balm, because they get to feel the resonance of what it feels to be clear channels, and they get to be held as they shed the wounding, because it can be a very initially a painful process to really feel the depth of that on a collective level, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It can bring you to your knees, and often it
Mm.
actually does.
Yeah.
But then again, when you have the courage to go through that healing process, then what awakens and opens up beyond that
Mm.
is just, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful and so empowering and
Yeah.
so um, well, I'm gonna use the word again. It's sacred. It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
It's sacred, and it's pure bliss. It's for me, it's bliss. And my friend Mary often speaks about that the world will be transformed through the bliss of the body, of the feminine. Because once we radiate that out, it's like, again, this resounding sound that goes out that gives like that clarion call of it's safe now to bring your head above the precipice. And, there are us that are holding and transmit the love of the mother. And it is enough to shed what we've been told as lies around our power and our sacredness, particularly as women. And yeah, if you want to say more on that.
It feels complete for now. Maybe something else will come
Yeah,
through
yeah.
later. But yeah,
Mhm.
I think we've raised a lot of very important, crucial points. So yeah,
Yeah. Do you want to move on to another wound?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is the body wound. And on the one hand, this is about our relationships with our own bodies. So again, under the patriarchal paradigm, we've been taught to think of beauty and attractiveness in a very narrow way.
Mhm.
It's like we're all expected to fit into a specific mold of how our bodies should be shaped, how our faces should look like, how our hair should be, and all of that. And many of us spend thousands of dollars on cosmetics, on makeup, on products that we feel we need because we are not good enough just the way we are. Not that there's anything wrong with makeup per se, but it's just the understanding that it's sold to us in a way that there's something wrong with us and we need to
Mhm.
make up for what we don't have.
Mhm.
Um, and so many of us, myself included, I've been on this boat for a long time of body hatred, of self-hatred, of pushing myself through crazy exercise regimes, eating disorders, all of that, so that I would fit into a specific mold of how I wanted to look or I expected myself to look through comparison with others. And I was only 12 when all of this started. So, it
Mm.
gets to us very, very early.
Yeah.
And there's tremendous peer pressure. There's tremendous pressure from social media, from media, the TV, magazines, for us to conform to that type of a mold. Um, and of course, in its extremes, it leads us to go through surgeries to change the shape of our bodies, our faces. And in the worst case scenarios, it can even lead to death
Mhm.
from eating disorders, for example. So it's not a small issue we're talking about. This is massive and it's global and it's affecting all of us, whether we really realize how deeply ingrained it is
Mhm.
in our bodies. Um, Another aspect of this wound is something that became very, very clear over the past 4.5 or 5 years or so, which is really around the sovereignty and autonomy of our bodies. To what
Mhm.
extent can we continue to decide what we actually put inside our bodies, what we allow into our bodies? And when are we going to stand up and get on the barricades and say no when our body autonomy is being threatened? Whether it's through um, miraculous vaccines or shots that are meant to save us from an external threat or something else.
Mhm.
But we've seen increasingly a coercive environment where our body autonomy, our sovereignty is really being put under question. And
Mhm.
we need to be standing stronger than ever to remain rooted and grounded and to remember that our bodies are miraculous powerhouses capable of healing pretty much anything as long as we provide the right environment for them, as long as we learn to love and respect our bodies, look
Mhm.
after our bodies, make sure that we are eating the right foods and drinking the right kinds of drinks and using lotions and detergents that don't disrupt our endocrine systems and all of that. And again, it always amazes me still in 2025 how many people actually don't realize that the detergent that we use on our clothes
Mhm.
really can mess us up in a big way unless we're using organic, natural substances
Yeah.
or perfumes or cosmetics and toiletries. Massive industry again. And a lot of it, 90% of it, if not even more, is really quite toxic to our
Mhm.
bodies and to the environments that we live in. So
Mhm.
becoming more and more aware of this and making conscious choices around what do I tolerate and what do I immediately say no to because I love me and I love my body.
Yeah.
Okay.
And seeing again that the body's not, it's like the body of the earth. It's like we nurture it and have reverence and see it as a sacred vessel. Um and shift into that mode because the body is key at this time, like you say. And it's almost like there's a war over the sovereignty of the body because if we're not full of ourselves, then something else will be full of us and will fill us up and take us away from our core sense of self and, like you said, our full sovereignty of being a full sovereign being. And so the love of the body at the minute is really, yeah, just a deep, deep thread for me at the moment. I had to go through a massive, like, decamping from all the stories that I've been told about body, like you, gone through all the gamuts of the disorders and like um just detaching and dissociating from my body. And then when this medicine of the mother started to come in, it was like my body started to grow and grow and grow. And it was like, and then being told that this is the medicine. To be fully in my body, I have to allow it to expand in a physical way to let the medicine come through. And so it just shifted. It was a process, I'll say that, because, like you said, even though you don't realize you're carrying these narratives around being told that to be beautiful is to be thinner or a different shape or size, it was like there were threads in there that I didn't realize were in there. And then, really, the love of the mother that came through was seeing the ancient pictures and beauty of the voluptuous mother and the full belly and the full breast. And it was like, this is mother. Mother, that's what mother said. This is mother, full breasted, full bodied, full belly. You need to fill your belly with energy. You need to feel the nourishment of mother's milk. And so it was, yeah, a real process. And like you said, it's filtered everywhere. The opposite of that is filtered everywhere in this time. So it's a really poignant wound that, we have to feel to go through to the other side, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And again, another example of the fact that we've been taught that our bodies are not powerful and that our
Hmm.
bodies don't know what to do is the way that we've completely over medicalized the most natural of processes, pregnancy and birth. I
Yes.
mean, our bodies know exactly what to do.
Yes.
Our bodies have the inner knowing, the intuition, the guidance. Our bodies know how to birth babies. That's what they've been created for. And yet we are subjected to so many visits to the doctor, so many scans, so many tests, and the labor process, especially if you choose to give birth in a hospital, can be incredibly invasive, incredibly um, violent in some cases as well.
Mhm.
And again, we kind of relinquish our autonomy when we choose to give birth in hospital. This is not a judgment. I've given birth twice in a hospital
Mhm.
setting, and this was before I fully,
Yeah.
connected with the mother and stepped onto this path as well. And my son, my firstborn, was born through a cesarean section, and
Mhm.
that was the most, what is the word I'm even looking for? Absurd event
Mhm.
of my life. It's like I've given this powerful epidural. I can't feel the bottom half of my body at all. And I can see them working with their scalpels, cutting away. And well, not really because there's a screen there, but I know what they're doing. And then suddenly this baby is lifted from behind that screen and placed on my chest. And for me, it was a very disempowering experience. I
Mhm.
know a lot of women choose it and feel completely fine with it, and that's okay. Each to her own. But for me, it was quite a disempowering experience, and I am so grateful that my daughter was born through a
Mhm.
natural birth, and it was such a different experience. And I can see the
Mhm.
differences in the two kids as well.
Yeah.
Because we know that the way a child is born into the world really shapes his or her character and
Mhm.
personality and the kind of stuff that they experience later on in life as well. But I'm kind of digressing there a
No,
little
not really. It's a really important
bit.
point. It's a really important point, actually, because, like you said, when women's bodies are left to their own devices, they know exactly what they're doing. And like you, my firstborn was through cesarean, and yes, it took me years to get over that. It was the most bizarre, traumatizing experience. But to everyone, it looked perfectly normal. But I totally dissociated from my body during that time. And it took me years to like realize that I'd even dissociated from my body. Um, and to come back in and like you, my second child, I just point blank refused. I said, no, this is coming out naturally. And yeah, and there was that fight because she was like 10, 11 days late. And so, and it was
Mine too.
And how can it be late? There is no late. Now it's like, there is no late. They come when they're ready. And this
Yes.
thing of forcing the female body to like be on a clock, on a time, and say, it's like, oh my God, the wounding around that is so intense and immense. Like you says, has an impact on our children that are birthed because a lot of my work is about the spiral of the body and the spiral of nature and natural thing. And when the baby comes out of the body, through a natural birth, they spiral out and it forms who they are as a being, and our bodies work with that, and birth can be this most beautiful thing because we're not forcing against, we're waiting for the natural turn of the body and the baby inside the womb to come out and flow. And like you said, we've handed over our autonomy to a system that has got no understanding of the body of woman as a conduit
Mm.
between worlds. And it's like, I'm so over it. I'm so, I am so over it. It's time just to remember that we are conduits between worlds.
Yeah, so beautiful. And of course, there are cases where modern medicine has absolutely saved
Yeah.
lives. And in some cases, is 100% necessary, no doubt about that. But overall, we really have been taught to underestimate the capacity of our bodies and really the intelligence and wisdom of the baby as well. I
Hmm.
mean, it's incredible how much we've kind of forgotten and given away in that sense, and how much reclaiming we now get,
Hmm.
how much re-remembering we get to do now to
Yeah.
really bring those ancient ways back as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on the point when you said the intelligence of the baby, because the baby is, but it's like an acorn, like they're birthed with their full potential, and they know what they're doing. Also, they know when they're coming, and I am so like honored to be a grandma right now because I get to see that in like motion, like I never did with my own children, like the natural evolution of what the body does when it's left to its own devices as it grows. It's like, oh my God, it's like seeing, for me, honestly, it's like a miracle, watching a miracle in front of my eyes. Um, and like it really brought me back into, like you said, this deep remembrance of the miracle of the body, that it knows exactly what it's doing and it can heal itself and rewrite itself and rewire itself in so many ways that we, on a collective level, have like dismissed. Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Miracle of the body, the miracle of the fact that we create new life.
Mhm.
That is a miracle.
Yeah.
We're creating miracles, and we've forgotten that.
Yeah.
And a big part of this remembering right now is really remembering our divinity. We are
Hmm.
divine beings. We are in 3D bodies in these lifetimes, but we are source energy. We are divinity. We
Hmm.
are stardust. We're all of that.
Yeah.
And we are incredibly powerful.
Mm.
Incredibly.
Incredibly, incredibly. And just then when you said 3D bodies, because again, I think again that's something that's been rewritten. As in,
True.
as
True.
in, yeah, the body is miraculous. We've kind of like downplayed it as it's just this 3D thing, but it is a miraculous. Um, it's even hard to put into words right now. Just the awe that I'm feeling for just what happens that this vehicle, this vessel gets to house soul
Well, yeah, absolutely.
and
And,
have
and
an experience, yeah, on Earth.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And these bones, this flesh, these muscles, these tendons, these ligaments, it is 3D stuff, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
that. But the fact that we I can't even talk anymore. The fact that we house and host our spirits, which are
Yeah.
multidimensional, that
Hmm.
never die, that keep coming back when we
Hmm.
choose to come back. into these bodies, and how, and again, this is something that it's really taken me a long time to come to terms with myself because of my experiences with my own body.
Mhm.
But I mean, how incredibly lucky are we to be
Mhm.
able to have this experience and to become more and more conscious of
Mhm.
our body's abilities, of the ability of our mind to create. I mean, we're literally aware of a tiny fraction of our capacities, of our body's capacities, and of the capacities of our minds and our hearts and our wombs. I have to bring in the wombs there as
Yeah,
well.
let's talk about the womb. Let's talk about the womb because, boy, there's a lot to say.
Yeah, sure. All right. So one of the five core feminine
Yeah.
wounds is the wound, and this is perhaps the less known one, intriguingly, because the womb plays such a huge role in creating new life for all of us, and it's the home of that womb consciousness as well. But again, thanks to patriarchy, we have literally been made to forget the power and the wisdom of our wombs. And again, using myself as an example, for a good 30 odd years of my life, I was completely disconnected from the fact that I had a freaking miracle organ inside my body.
Mhm.
Even when I was pregnant with my babies, I was connecting with my babies, but I wasn't connecting with the womb. And the idea that my womb actually is a portal into other dimensions, a
Mhm.
portal into ancient feminine wisdom, a portal into healing capacities that we're only starting to understand again,
Mhm.
or dig deeper around as humans. And the fact that our wombs can be worked with to manifest our lives, to bring through a life that we really find meaningful to live, and to birth the new earth collectively as well. We can work very closely with our wombs to create that world, to
Mhm.
create lives that are again founded on love, compassion, and kindness. And none of this is ever taught to us. None of it. On the contrary, the womb is such a crucial organ in all ways. And yet, how much did you learn about the womb at school?
No.
Very little. Very little. I don't even really remember an anatomy lesson where they would have shown me exactly what the womb looks like.
Mhm.
It's like boggles the mind. And again, it's a very systematic, structured way of disconnecting us from our power,
Mhm.
because the womb is the holy of the holies. It
Yeah.
is the sacred temple space within our bodies.
Yes.
And just like if you walk into a physical temple, a structure, a building, the holiest place is in the middle. It's hidden away. It's a place only the most high initiates have access to because it is so holy.
Mhm.
That's our wombs. Our wombs are that
Yes.
holy of holies.
The holiest of holy. I love it when you say that, honestly. And I love the fact that you talk about womb-centered leadership, as in, like you said, our wombs are so sacred and so potent and so powerful. And it is the place to lead from. It is the place to lead from. Um, it holds a tremendous amount of power, a tremendous amount of gnosis, the wisdom that comes from the womb. And it's why I so vehemently talk about women and womb. I can't do anything else. And it's not to dismiss anybody else, but the womb of women have an important part to play through this evolutionary process. And yeah, like you said, it's like an ancient wisdom that's coming back because we were so plugged into source through our wombs. And this is the remembrance that is taking place now. And as you said, everything that's taken us so far away from that wisdom and knowing has to be like worked through and cleansed out of the way. And as we plug in, what's happening to my body now as I plug into this new earth grid more and more, and just allow that energy to reconfigurate me, is the power of the womb is coming on stronger before, um, because it is, the seat of power.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. And the more we learn to connect, the more we learn to listen to the voice of the womb, the wings of the womb, or womb wings, as I like to call them, the more direction there is in our lives, the more guided we feel and are, the more
Mhm,
grounded we are, the more held we feel by the mother as well.
mhm,
And yeah, I mean, I've been doing this work for quite a few years now, and yet I still, in so many ways, feel that I'm still such a baby. It's like
mhm,
I'm in the very beginning of this journey, and there's like so many layers, so much more complexity to explore and to understand and to allow, to
mhm,
receive. Because
mhm,
again, especially as women, we've been disconnected from our ability to receive in many ways. And the more we can open up to that receiving, that holding of that beauty and that wisdom and that power, the more substance and meaning there is in our lives. And you can literally just feel your own power grow as well. And
mhm,
that's not in a conceited way at all. It's literally, again, stepping into your divinity,
mhm.
stepping into your sovereignty, stepping into your full capacity as a human being.
Yeah, the
Incredible
full,
planet of ours.
yeah, the full capacity as human beings, because we, like we've said, we are here to co-create with life, and the life that like wants to move through us, that radiant like energy of life is like 1,000 atomic bombs worth. That big bang that creates life, that eternal spark lives in us. It lives in us, and as women, we carry the seeds of the cosmic womb. And for me, all life was birthed through the cosmic womb, and that's what makes it such a beautiful like awakening when we understand that as truth and feel that in the body. Like you said, the capacity we then have to create with life. And for me, what comes with that is it's almost like just a deeper knowing that we are in service to life when we fully step into that power of the womb. Yeah.
So true. So very true. And it comes with a responsibility as well.
Yeah.
How do we serve? How do we hold
Mm,
our own place on this planet? How do we take on the mantle of conscious co-creator?
mhm.
Because that could go in two different ways. And how do we make sure that we choose the path of love, no
Yeah.
matter what is going on around us, no matter what is happening globally, no
Mhm,
matter how much craziness or chaos there seems to be surrounding us? How
mhm,
do we truly step into that place of leadership, womb-centered leadership, new earth leadership that
mhm,
allows us to co-create in a conscious, awakened way and
mhm,
makes it possible for humanity to thrive on this planet for many, 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 hopefully thousands of years to come.
mhm. Yeah. I really feel that the word responsibility has been given a real bad rap. As in, it's something like that takes you away from living life fully, that you have to sacrifice. And I think I talked about the mystic sacrifice before on another podcast, but it's like this ability to respond to life in a whole new way, and to do that, I call, as you call it, radical responsibility, to know that we are doing this in service to life,
Mm.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And
Yeah.
thank you for mentioning radical responsibility. That is really the key here, really, the
Mhm.
underpinning of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just holding yourself accountable to the energies, to the essence of what is wanting to birth like through us. It's like the more that we come into alignment with that, the more it is about being in reverence to life. That's how I see responsibility. It's not that something's being taken from me or I'm having to do something that's hard. It's just the fact that, oh, I can feel the full resonance and full reverence for life. And I will, you know, surrender myself to that in a way where I want to serve that energy because I know that it keeps everything in a cohesive pattern. It keeps balance. It brings harmony. It is just love. It is compassion. It is the motor of life, you know. And as I see it, it is just this concentric, like rose of life where love is like where the fountain of love comes from. It's just why wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, it's so very simple and
Hmm.
very, very complex at the same time. But at its very essence, it's very pure. It's very
Hmm.
simple. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. Yeah. Do you want to touch upon one of the other wounds? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the fifth one then. So that's the menstruation wound.
Yeah.
And again, this is our relationships with our cycles, our menstrual cycles. And again, there's been this whole narrative around how we need to hide our cycles. We
Hmm.
shouldn't talk about them. We should consider our cycles as a nuisance, if not even a curse. And that when we're bleeding, we're somehow dirty, that we, shouldn't even mention to anyone that we are, in fact, bleeding. And all you have to do is look at the kind of advertising that is out there around menstrual hygiene products. Young girls in tight white jeans or in short white skirts, um, using tampons or pads, and nobody can even know that they are on their bleeds. So this constant ignorance and this need to hide, even from ourselves, the fact that we are bleeding. And no matter how we feel, there's this need to push through because
Hmm.
a lot of us feel really tired during the time when we start to menstruate or experience pain or discomfort or bloating. And it would be so nice to stay at home and not have to go to work or not have to get on a stage or do a sports activity. And yet, that's what society expects of us. We're meant to just pop a pill, behave as if nothing is happening in our bodies, and go through life normally, so to speak. And yet, our cycles are sacred.
Hmm.
Our cyclical nature is what defines us as women to
Hmm.
such a large extent and connects us to the cycles of nature and connects us to the celestial cycles. We are part of all that. And a part of our cycles is the fact that we feel differently because of the hormonal changes. We'll feel differently at different parts of the cycle. And we have not been taught to revere that. Not been taught to honor that. So again, we're pushing through life, we're pushing through our cycles, completely ignoring the fact that we are bleeding and might be feeling tired and exhausted. And forgetting, again, this is never taught to us, forgetting that our blood is sacred.
Hmm.
Menstrual blood is incredibly healing. It contains stem cells,
Hmm.
regenerative stem cells that modern science is only kind of starting to catch up on now. The ancient ones knew about this, but the modern scientists are kind of only just starting to catch up on this and realize the healing potential of menstrual blood
Hmm.
and how the stem cells from menstrual blood can be used in numerous ways to bring through healing in the human
Hmm.
body. Again, that is not completely devoid of ethical considerations because you can imagine how that could be misused as well. And certainly the idea of blood harvesting does exist. And there's a lot of women who have been exploited for thousands of years, and that continues to the present day. where women are being misused, our cycles are being misused, and our blood is being misused as well. But that's perhaps a discussion for another time. But the main point here is that we have been taught to disregard the sacredness of our cycles and to consider them a nuisance, something that needs to be hidden, and something that we just need to push through, rather than giving us time and spaciousness to flow with that cycle. And when we're bleeding, to have that space for ourselves, whether we choose to bleed by ourselves or come together with other women, as again used to happen in the past, come together with other women, because we tend to kind of, our cycles tend to sync up when we are living close to other women. And the time of bleeding is when the veils are really thin. It's when our oracular abilities are really heightened, and when we can again manifest so many things, so many incredible things into our lives as well. And this knowledge is again rising up. It's more and more women are becoming aware of this, but it's been driven underground for such a long time. And I have to mention this as well. Another aspect is that the products that we use during our cycles, so tampons and the usual labels that you find in supermarkets in terms of pads, those contain a lot of toxins as well.
Yeah.
We're not told this. But if you think about the amount of time that a woman bleeds in her life, over 20, 30, possibly even 40 years, and some women even 5 or 6 days, some even 7 days at a time, how much exposure to toxins there is through these products, tampons that we insert into our bodies, and pads that then also suppress the flow itself. And how many of us have incredibly painful bleeds and have terrible PMS, and often, end up having to completely stop living for a few days because it is so painful. And for a lot of us, that is because we are so disconnected from our divine feminine essence and from the sacredness of our cycles and our bleeds, and that we don't try and sync and harmonize our activities according to our cycles. And of course, modern work life doesn't make that easy. It makes it almost impossible for us to be able to respect our cycles as part of day-to-day life. Again, we need to remember, we need to heal this. We need to use that clarion call and start reminding women of the need to speak up around this as well. And change the way we live and work and lead our lives around our cycles.
Exactly. Because like you say, the time when we bleed is the most potent part of the set because the veil is thinner. And there were times, like you said, when we came together and we would sync up because we know the potency of that and the information that we could bring through for our collective communities. And that was revered in the community that this is what women's bodies did. This is how we kept in sync with life and harmonious with the cycles. But yes, we've created a world where we're always like having to move on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And like there is no space to breathe as a woman. And we, like you said, became detached from that inner knowing, which created disorder and disharmony in the body. And this wisdom and this knowledge and this knowing around our cycles is becoming more aware in the collective field, which is amazing because our periods are not meant to be painful at all.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. And the other beautiful thing about our blood is that it will actually, how should I explain this? If we choose to collect our blood and, for example, nourish our garden or herb garden or flower garden or something with our blood, the plants actually take on the qualities that our bodies need the most. let's say that we're growing mint or basil and we are irrigating those plants with our menstrual blood. The basil will then take on certain kinds of qualities and properties that are
Mhm.
supported specifically to my body and to
Mhm.
my energetics. That is how magical it is.
Mhm.
And the idea, I mean, when I started to practice shamanic bleeding, which is free bleeding, where you choose not to use any kind of pads or block the flow in any way, you just simply let it
Mhm.
flow. That was like one of the most revolutionary events of my life because I started bleeding very early. I was only 10 when I started my period.
Mhm.
And I think emotionally a little bit too immature at that point, wasn't expecting it, wasn't ready for it, had read in a magazine that girls start to bleed from the age of 11 onwards. And because I was a week away from my 11th birthday, I somehow figured that I was faulty, that there was something wrong with me because I started bleeding earlier than that. Menarche is another thing, by the way. So many of us have experienced menarche, our first bleeds, as embarrassing or
Mhm.
shameful, incredibly scary as well, and very confusing. And again, the rituals that girls used to undergo
Yeah.
that prepared them for puberty, prepared them to becoming adults. Women, they haven't been practiced for a very long time,
Mhm.
at least not in the context and societies that we live in the so-called Western world. But yeah, so where am I trying to go with this? My experience of my menarche and yes, and then when I started to use hormonal contraceptives at one point or use the
Mhm.
coil, so actually wasn't bleeding for a long time. Then I had two pregnancies, one after the other, and then I breastfed for a long time after both pregnancies. So I think it was like almost 7 years I didn't bleed at all. So I was completely devoid of this experience.
Mhm.
Then I decided, once I started to study womb awakening and really stepped onto this path, one of the very first things that I did was remove the IUD, and the period then started to come back. And then from there, I decided to do free bleeding. And that was the most liberating
Mhm.
experience, just wearing beautiful flowy skirts and allowing the blood just to come through and not blocking it in any way.
Yeah. There is something magical that happens when you free bleed. Um, and in fact, free bleeding helps um, heal a fibroid in me
Wow.
because, again, I wasn't blocking the flow and I was allowing the energy to flow. And because it was so nourishing for my body, a lot of creative intel came through at that time because, again, I think it's one of the most beautiful, potent times of the female cycle when we go into that almost like liminal space. Um, and of course, we're going to get cranky if we're like being forced to like go against the body wanting to go inwards into the dark, into the womb, into the wisdom that's held there. And that built over time just builds like distortion and like you, I started bleeding very young. I was like 10, the same age, had no understanding of my body, and there was nothing really said about what happened. There was no like marker of the transition of, oh, I am going into womanhood now. And yeah, it left its wounds and its scars because it really disconnected me from my body again. Like I thought it was out of control. No one told me that it was a natural thing that like happened. And so again, it was like this whole process of getting to the point where I allowed myself to sit and listen to it and hear that it doesn't want anything put in it. It doesn't want toxic thing. It wants to just, when it comes to that time, allow myself to give myself the space to bleed and let it flow and let the rivers flow, let the tears flow, let whatever needs to flow through me. And the more I did that, the clearer I became. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is such a beautiful cleansing process
Yeah.
and at such deep levels, not just a physical cleansing of the lining of
Hmm.
the wound being shed, which in and of itself is very powerful and very potent, but the cleansing of energy that no longer serves us. We
Mhm.
can work with our bleeds very consciously and really intend for anything that no longer serves us to be shed
Mhm.
together with
Yeah.
and to be released in a sacred way.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I mean, I know we've used the word sacred a lot, but it's so it's so key. Sacredness is so key because it's our like lack of sacredness that has caused a lot of the distorted patterns in the collective now, not just for women, but for men. Well, for everybody. You know, we've lost the understanding of what sacred is on a intrinsic level. And we look at life as just mundane when it is a daily miracle, you know, and it is sacred and it is something to be looked at in awe and honored in awe. Yeah. For me, there's no matter how many times I like see a sunset or a sunrise, as you call it, then I could watch it every single day because it just makes me feel so connected and alive. Um, and just that sense of knowing that, yeah, I am part of life. I am part of the cycles that happen on a daily basis, as particularly as woman in my body, and really getting to understand the sense of that cyclical nature of the feminine form.
Exactly. Yeah.
I really want you to speak a bit more on newer feminine leadership because I know it's like a key part of your work, and for some people they might not understand what that fully means. So I wonder if you could speak to that in your work and the way that you work with leadership.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've touched on aspects of this
Yeah.
already, but it's essentially for me, the kind of leadership that we've experienced now for thousands of years on this planet has been incredibly destructive. And it's been premised on the idea of power over
Mhm.
someone or something. And it has justified the abuse of women. It has justified the abuse of animals, and it has justified the abuse of the environment of our planet in so many ways. And we've seen how much destruction it has led to through
Mhm.
conflict and war, through, again, the misuse of resources on our planet and so on. I'm not going to go too much into that. I think we all kind of get
Yeah,
the picture
we get the
around
picture.
so what these times of change and transition are really calling for is a very, very different type of leadership.
Mhm.
And we know that this awakening that's happening on our planet is to a large extent being led by women. It's our time. It's our time to step into leadership again, come back to that ancient way of being and living and co-creating on this planet. Um, that doesn't mean that the men are forgotten or that the men now are diminished into nothing, not at all. It means understanding the beautiful balance and harmony that there can exist between women and men and between masculine and feminine energy. So, a big part of this womb centered leadership is learning to work with the feminine and masculine energies within ourselves because we all have both masculine and feminine energy inside ourselves. And we couldn't really function without the other. They are crucial elements of who we are, whether we are men or women. And the masculine energy is in its purest, most beautiful form. It is about getting things done. It is about taking sacred action. It is
Mhm.
about holding sacred space, becoming a guardian for the feminine energy to be able to flow and receive and be in its intuitive, powerful state of creation as well. And the more we learn to understand where we might be overdoing it in the masculine energy
Mhm.
and undervaluing the feminine energy, or the other way around, the more flow and harmony and balance there is in our lives, and the more clarity there is in terms of who we are meant to be and
Mhm.
what we're meant to be bringing through in these lifetimes on our planet. Again, for me, this leadership is very much womb centered because, as we've talked about, the fact that the womb really is the core. It is the foundation. It is the holy of the holies, and from where our intuitive guidance comes from where our power really truly arises from where our creativity, our ability to create, whether it's new life or new worlds or new ideas or projects or art, comes from as well. And our wombs really are our guiding lights, our true north. And when we have the courage to listen to that voice of the womb, we are so truly held and guided.
Mhm.
And for us as women, as the bearers of physical wombs, and by the way, even if you've had your womb removed, the
Mhm.
etheric blueprint of the womb will always be there. The energetics of the womb will always be there, and you can learn to work with those. But when we're guided by the womb, we are guided by love. We're
Mhm.
guided by the most powerful elixir that we have at our disposal on this planet. And the womb really connects us with truth, with
Yeah.
our inner truth, which again is always connected to love.
Mhm.
It is that collective love slash womb slash mother consciousness that
Mhm.
is really holding us all at the
Yeah.
moment in such a powerful way. And the more we learn to tap into that, the more guided we are. And the more confident we can be that we are making the right choices that are for the highest good of all.
Yeah.
And it's also about remembering that we are exposed to a lot of crap on in this world, a lot of low vibration energy, whether it comes from TV series or the news or from books that we choose to read or music that we choose to listen to or chemtrails in the sky, whatever it might be. But there's a lot of low vibration energy on our planet. And as leaders, we need to be able to remain in that higher vibration, again, that vibration of love, no matter what is happening.
Yeah.
So we might get scared. We might get pulled down once in a while. We might be feeling depressed once in a while. Even hopelessness might come into the picture once in a while. But how do we shake that off? And how quickly can we shake that off
Mhm.
so that we can truly be the leaders, the role models, the shining lights for others as well,
Mhm.
and spread that truth of love for
Yeah.
everyone. And also remembering the importance of energetic protection. We, as the light quotient inside us grows, we become almost like targets to the more denser energies as well, which do exist on our planet as well.
Mhm.
And again, we need to know how to ward that off so that it doesn't impact us and influence us. And that's a big part of being in a higher vibration,
Mhm.
knowing how to protect yourself and keep all of that denser
Mhm.
energy just away from you.
Yeah.
Um, and a big part of the New Earth leadership for me as well is releasing any remaining remnants of shame and guilt that we would have picked up along the way. Shame and guilt are such,
Mm.
oof, they carry such low vibration energy.
Yeah.
Shame is the closest energy to death, literally, and they do not serve us in any way. And yet, so many of us are burdened by so much shame and guilt around our bodies, around our sexuality, around our
Mhm.
sensuality, around the mistakes we've made as
Mhm.
mothers or sisters or daughters, as partners, all of that. And again, we've kind of been taught to carry that shame.
Mhm.
And the more we carry it, the more it accumulates inside us and the more heavier the burden is.
Mhm.
So the more we can release that, let it go, let
Yeah.
go of all this narrative that makes us think
Mhm.
that we feel guilty and ashamed. Um, the more we can enter that bliss that you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier as
Yeah.
well, and really have that guiding us, that
Yeah.
joy, bliss, that joy of life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned about a lot of emotions, especially guilt and shame is they're not natural. They're not natural human emotions, as in they've been taught to us and they've been implanted in us to keep us away from our power and our full essence. Because, like you said, shame has got such a low vibration that there is no way that you can stand in your full divinity if you're carrying shame. It's an impossibility. It's the distance between the two are just it's just too vast. So it's like we have to like come into a space like you say now where we learn to shed the shame and be held through that portal of relinquishing the shame because there is nothing to be ashamed of as a human being, a human divine being. And like you said, the resonance is love. That sound of the mother is love. And that is the leadership learning to be the eye in the storm,
Mm.
the center point, the unwavering like channel that brings that love through and holds that as the frequency and the fabric for humanity to rise into its full sovereignty and being, for sure. Um, And yeah, we've used the word bliss before because it truly is blissful to be on that side of the cat and holding that as a frequency and a clarion call for those that can hear the sound, the resounding sound of that. And it's not just bliss because, well, for me, it's not just bliss because, oh my God, I've like finally got hit and I'm like, I feel crystal clear. But it's this sense of just knowing that I am holding a frequency that is shifting the evolution of the planet for our rising. And um and just being able to hold that as a full sense of being at the same time plugging into this new earth grid and bringing that into full fruition. It's like, oh my God, this is what it means to be like a full architect, a full alchemist for this time. And I think at the beginning of the conversation, I was saying to you about before we got on the call that I am so grateful to women like you in my life. I cannot even explain how grateful I am to have women like you as allies that I know I can feel you singing from the same sheet, that clear sound of the mother and yeah, really brought me into my sense of being. And yeah, as I said before, you saw me before I understood what was coming through and that trust. Trust in the knowing. I kind of want to just touch upon that because it's like we don't always, it's not something that we can logically understand. And it's not meant to be. This is meant to be now coming from the body, coming from the being as a felt lived sense of being and trusting that what is coming through us is meant for this time and it has to cut through, like you said, all the wounds that we've carried as women. We it's like burning through those like layers and coming further into trust and seeing that there are women carrying the codes of this mother world, mother frequency. And it may not feel again, like a logical thing. Because when Emmy first came to me, again, I was like, okay, I know she's singing my language, but I don't know exactly what it's saying. And I was thinking, what does this woman want with me? But it was like, sister, I see you, I feel you. And in my presence, you can talk freely. This is a free world. We can talk freely. And it was like this river of wisdom that just erupted out of me because it was just a blessing to be seen. And I really feel like as women, this is why I'm doing this, because I want people to feel the women that called me into being just through their presence, just through their knowing that this is an unprecedented time. And it's not something that we can logically put into like cohesion. It's meant to be felt. Energetics first is what I say now, frequency first. And so I hope that, yeah, people who listen to this and go seek Emmi out. She's got a wealth of wisdom and she really helps me through transitioning and ownership of my own wisdom. And forgot why I was even saying all this. It's like, yeah, I just want to be the women of who like were really plugged into this this journey of like life and know where we're going. We are the lighthouses, we are the beacons, and like Emmy was saying, we may get, brought into the mire every now and again, but it's like, how do we then come back into full erectness in our power as women? And it is knowing that there are others of us out there, and we are not doing this alone. It may feel lonely at times. Trust me, oh my God, it felt so lonely at times.
Yeah.
Um, but once we begin to really shift into feeling one another, we begin to feel the truth
Yeah.
and our deeper knowing, for sure.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I may share just one more thing, just
Mhm.
briefly, because I feel like right now, for the past possibly even a month or so, I feel like I've been swimming in that thick soup of like
Mhm.
not really knowing, the uncertainty of feeling like these huge question marks. I know deep in my bones that something is meant to shift in the way that I work, in the work that I do. Something big is coming. I can feel it, but it's taking a bloody long time to actually come through and become known. And I'm having to hold space for myself at a deeper level than ever before. And I have to say, I've had days when I've literally wanted to just pack up all my bags and go and leave all this behind because it's felt so overwhelming at times, and like almost that sense of hopelessness that I talked about before.
Mhm.
I've been dancing with that a lot lately.
Mhm.
And I know that this too will end. It shall pass. And once I get through to the other side, my mind knows that, there might be some breakthrough, or I might have some new
Mhm.
creative ideas, or maybe even birth something completely different. Who knows? But being in this soup, my God, oof, it is not easy. And
Mhm.
I know it's also impacted and influenced by the energetics on our globe and everything that's happening planetarily, and all of that has to do with it. But if I'm feeling this, probably millions of other women are feeling this
Yeah.
too. And how can we hold space even in a bigger way for each other
Mhm.
so that we can come through this,
Yeah.
hopefully in quantum time, much more quickly, in much more gracefully as well, and in a way that allows us to feel that cohesion that you were talking about,
Mhm.
each other's holding and each other's support and love,
Mhm. Yeah.
bigger way all the time.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I love that you like hit on this because I nearly couldn't do this because I am so congested right now because there is so much purging going on. And like you said, because there is this edge right now that's coming through that we're being called to bring things through in a bigger way. And it's not just you, every single woman that I'm like connected to at the minute that are in the embodiment of their work have said the same thing. This week, this last few weeks, we're being like brought into order because the energy is going to come through in a much bigger way through this eclipse portal. You know, the veil is really thinning, and already we're being asked to look at how exactly we're bringing our medicine through because it's going to shift exponentially in a massive way. I mean, I've got so many tingles and I can't sit still because it was like, oh my God, Emmy can feel it too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's almost like, again, we're being lifted into another octave and we're lifting the women with us. And I can just feel this thing. But to get there, oh my God, the purging. I mean, I've been in bed for the last few days, like, just not it, my head, just like you said, like in soup, to the point I couldn't even hear at one point because my ears were just so full of like the noise of the planet. I was like, "Ah." And I thought, what is going on? It's like, we're moving through like the dense layer to go through to another layer. And it's like this purge, the last like purging of people who have been doing this for a while now are going through this like pushing through this like crusted layer so that it can crack open, and it is dense. And this week, oh my God, the grief I felt around just that collective lack of reverence for the feminine. And I know I'm saying it like that, but oh my God, it was like tearing my heart open, just the sheer sadness of what we'd become.
Yeah.
And then feeling like this energy coming through of what we are birthing and just sitting, having to sit in the two poles of that and really alchemize it in my body. Oh my God. It's finally shifting today, you know. But I thought, wow, this is so heavy. So heavy. It's been so heavy. Um, and radiant at the same time. And it's almost like now my ears are attuning to a different tune of clarity and dropping the distorted. I think I said to a friend, it just sounded like clucking chickens, like in my head. I was like, oh my God, let it just go. It's like we've done that now. We've done the heavy lifting and we're shifting to a new frequency. And as we rise, the others are rising. Everyone's rising. We're all rising, and it can feel really uncomfortable, like you said, really, really uncomfortable. Um, yeah. So thank you for bringing that because when one voices, it's like I can guarantee that there's a whole swathe of women going through the same thing. And just to bring some comfort to that it is another turning of the cycle, that we're all being lifted up in the spiral. And it's attuning us to a different frequency. And yes, all the remnants and things that we've got in us, it feels really uncomfortable to move through those really crusted layers. Um, but we are doing this together. We really are.
Yeah. Blessed be.
Thank
Mm.
you. I really want people just to know about your work because your podcast is the first thing you invited me on, and it's such a beautiful podcast. There's such a wealth of resource there. And you've got some beautiful guests on there. So I'd love you to tell people about that and also about the other deeper work that you do because you have a centre and retreats and things. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So the podcast is called Sacred Feminine Power, and it was birthed in the beginning of 2020, just before all the global madness started to raise its head. And its intention, on the one hand, is really to showcase the voices and the gifts of beautiful soul sisters and soul brothers who have stepped
Mhm.
into their sacred feminine power in their own unique ways all around the world. And at a deeper level, it really is about supporting this rise of the divine feminine on our planet and the ascension process of Mother Earth as well. And my intention and my wish is for every single interview to bring through these little awakenings, these little insights and goosebump moments for the listeners. And the longer I run the podcast, the less shy I am about bringing through sensitive topics as well, and
Mhm.
topics that some people might consider quite polarizing or difficult to talk about, stuff that might be uncomfortable to speak out in some
Mhm.
ways as well. So it really is supposed to bring through the reverence for all living beings, for all life, for Mother Earth, at the same time also get people to understand what's actually been happening on our planet for thousands of years, and how unaligned things
Mhm.
have been for such a long time. So yeah, that's the podcast. I also host summits or a speaker series. So the Return to the Mother World summits is one of my most loved things that I do. It's again a beautiful opportunity to bring together women and men who are doing this work, who are truly beacons of light and love in the world, and share their wisdom with the world as
Mhm.
well through interviews and panel discussions and so on. The main work that I do though is I'm a healer. I'm an energy medicine practitioner and a shamanic womb practitioner as well. And I work with women both one-on-one, through groups, in groups, through online programs and face-to-face. And I also run retreats. And I truly believe that when women reconnect with this ancient feminine wisdom that we've been talking about and that lives inside our bones and in our womb spaces, and when we heal the wounds that stop us from loving ourselves exactly the way we are, and when we step into our sacred feminine power, not only are we doing the healing for ourselves, we do it for those who came before us, we do
Mhm.
it for those who come after us, we do it for the collective. And we also truly get to speak our truths,
Mhm.
become unapologetically who we're meant to be, remember our divinity, and then really start to share our gifts with the world and
Mhm.
step into that bigger space of leadership, because that is what our planet so very much needs right now. So a lot of my work is deep healing work, shadow work, working
Mhm.
with that trauma and that wounding. And having said that, that is also shifting because things
Mhm.
are clearing, astronomically quickly sometimes. So
Yes.
some work that maybe used to take, 5, 10 sessions in the past can literally be cleared in one
Yeah.
breathwork session or one tapping session or one
Mhm.
shamanic session. And it's beautiful to witness this and to see how easy and graceful it can be to blossom
Mhm.
and remember and become
Yeah.
who we truly are meant to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, retreats, one of my favorite things to do. I mainly do retreats in Egypt. I love the desert. I left a part of my heart in the desert the first time I went there. So a lot of my retreats are about the womb-like primordial energy
Mm.
of the desert and just being in that vastness, that stillness, and that silence of the desert
Mhm.
that really allows you to go deep, deep within and access that divinity, access your star origins, access your divinity in a very different way from the hustle and
Mhm.
bustle of the everyday life, and priestess pilgrimage to the sacred sites and
Yeah.
connecting with the
Lots.
energy of
Yeah.
the now.
Mm.
Lots and lots of different things, but
Lots
really
and lots of
ultimately
different
about healing and remembering who we are.
Yeah. I want to touch because the Mother World summits are more than just summit. Like you said, there's a wealth of like information, and you can still get the recordings from Emmy's website. But I also want to just mention that it's also birthed a book. Your
Oh,
book.
thank you.
I'm like, what are you doing? Book?
I forgot. So,
I
yes,
know.
I've got
That's why I thought.
three
Let's.
out there.
Yeah, you've got books out there.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, The Return to the Mother World is a compilation book. So it brings
Mm,
together a number of women from different parts and walks of life who've shared about their experiences of the mother world. And for me, that book, that was in a big way my clarion call as well, to
hmm
get my truth out into the world and support more and more women and men to
hmm
really to awaken to the fact that we are miracles and it's not too late. We are returning to the mother world and we're
Yeah.
kind of creating the new based on ancient sacred ways, but also adapting it to what we have around us
Mhm.
now, making it even more potent and fitting to the current times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, as a fellow writer, it's like I really want to sing praises to your book because it is such a beautiful, exquisite book, and the range of people's voices in there is it's like just a beautiful symphony because it's got something for everybody. And if you've never like understood what the mother world is or how we tap into it in different ways, in our unique ways, then I really recommend Emmi's book and tapping into the summits that have already gone to really understand these concepts in a much clearer, deeper way. And thank you, Emmy. How can people find you? What's your socials and websites?
So my website is femininerevered.com. And I'm also on Instagram under Feminine Revered, or you can look me up under my name as well. And I am becoming less active on Facebook, but I am still there. So either under my name, Emmi Mutale, or under Feminine Revered, you'll find me there. But I think the website is the easiest place to find
Mhm.
more in-depth information. And the podcast, of course, you'll find a tab
Mm.
to the podcast on my website as well. So yeah, I
Thank
would
you
love it
so
if more
much.
and more
Thank
women
you.
listened and men.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any last words you'd like to say before we leave?
Hmm. I think the resounding message that's coming through in this moment is simply one of hope.
Mm.
That there is so much to look forward to, regardless of how crazy things seem around us. And the more consciously we tune into the frequency of hope, the more quickly we will shift things on our
Mhm.
planet, within ourselves, within those around us, and then within the collective as well. So let's all really tune into and tap into that frequency of hope, and of
Mhm.
course the frequency of love, and consciously choose to become
Mhm.
emissaries of the new earth, these beautiful womb-centered new earth leaders, because we are paving the way forward. We are the
Mhm.
pioneers, we're the trailblazers, the way showers. And we're moving into unknown territory, as you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
in a way very ancient, but also very unknown.
Very
So
yeah.
let's hold each other's hands and walk each other home.
Hmm. Well, we are walking each other home, and as each of us lights up, a bit like you were saying with the healing, things shift exponentially very quickly. We're doing this in like present time, shifting as we go, and things can be rewritten in an instant. This is like the miracle of who we are and what life is, and as Emmy said, it may look crazy out there, and it is a bit crazy out there, but there is also this beautiful unfolding that's happening at the same time. And as the old world crumbles, the new templates are being brought into place with women who are in their full feminine leadership. And so we are leading the way. We are the visionaries. We are the pioneers. We are going at the front. And so, um, yeah, Emmy's a woman that you love. And if you resonate with her, tune in and follow her because she knows where she's going. She knows where she's going. She's seen the vision of the mother world. Thank you, Emmy. Love you so much.
That's because thank you so much. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Sirens of the Mother podcast, where we wax lyrical about all things mother, from the divine to the downright dirty.